Okay, this is a quick sit and chat paint video where I'm painting the Mantic Mars Attacks scenery, which is this brickwork, destroyed town sort of stuff. It's from the Mars Attacks game, produced by Mantic. I think they'd still produce it. And the scenario is the Martians have landed, basically destroyed the town, and the game starts where the survivors and the US Army begin to fight back and try and take back control of Springville, I think the fictional town is. So just to explain what I'm doing, this comes in sort of a reddish plastic, suitable for brickwork, but I've sprayed it with a brown from Army Painter, and I'm now liberally dry brushing that brickwork with a cheap cream acrylic paint from, I think it's Inscribe. I probably picked stuff at Hobbycraft some time ago. Porcelain Flash, I think the colour is. But there's really no subtlety to this whatsoever. It's just literally just blasting it on. I'm using the cheapest of cheap brushes. Probably also from Hobbycraft, one of those where you pick up about 6 or 7 brushes for £1, I think it is, in a packet. But they're ideal for this sort of work where you're really not bothered about them getting ruined, but they do the job and get the paint onto the building. You see, I'm really not paying too much attention to this. I'm looking forward to getting the Mars Attacks game on the table. It's what might be called Dead Zone Light, and by that I mean whereas Dead Zone is played very much in the 3-dimensional plane, as in vertical as well as horizontal across the tabletop, because you're encouraged to build stacks or cubes of scenery, and there's definite advantages from being as high up as possible within the scenery. Mars Attacks is very much in the 2D plane, so you play across the table and use these bits of scenery to hide behind and prevent being clear shotted, hopefully, by the enemy. It's a fast and furious game from what I can see from the 1 or 2 back reps that I've seen that exist on YouTube. There aren't that many actually. I'm not sure how widely it's played, but there's certainly a relatively active Facebook group. I think it's the Mars Attacks Fanatics, similar to most of the Mantic Facebook groups. And the figures are eminently usable in Dead Zone. They certainly just had a upgraded list made available for the Martians, and there's now a list for the survivors too. So there's multiple uses of the figures, and certainly some of the street furniture is very nice and suitable for games such as The Walking Dead or post-apocalyptic type games, or gangster games, I suppose, where there's stop signs and a mailbox, piles of tyres, barricades, street barricades, that sort of thing. Hopefully you can see I'm absolutely whizzing through these, really not paying any attention. It's one of those, I don't know if you call it a stream of consciousness thing, where often chaos theory will reign with this kind of painting, because you literally just throw it on there and don't think about it. If you start thinking about it, you start to get picky, and that just slows up the whole process. So just absolutely waz the paint on there quick as you can. It often helps when you're talking, like I am now on the video. So a little bit about what's been going on. We had the Barrage show in Stafford at the weekend, which was excellent. I've seen ThroatSore throwing up this excellent video report talking to some of the traders there, including Mantic, Andy from Mantic, who was very accommodating of his customers. In fact, took me through a bit of a demo of The Walking Dead, which was great, very quick. It was really excellent in sort of bringing the game alive, and how he described the action and what was going on, and particularly, for instance, when I was searching a car looking for some supplies, and he talked about how I was leaning across into the car past the stinking rotting corpse that was in there, hoping to find some supplies, and at the same time hoping that the corpse didn't come back alive and bite me. It was absolutely great how he ran that. He's clearly well practiced in the art of demoing these games. So yeah, check out ThroatSore's video. It is excellent, real good run through of what was on at that show. So yeah, I went to that. That was really good, really enjoyed it. Picked up one or two bits and pieces which won't surprise you. A couple of Walking Dead bits and pieces, like Prelude to Woodbury, which I've been after for a while. Rick on a Horse, which I think now completes all of the Wave 1 expansions that I've got. They are sitting just up there on the shelf. There we go. There we go. I also picked up Dead Zone Outbreak, of course I did. It was the day before its official release, but I think Andy took several copies on. I can't remember how many he said actually, but it sold out by lunchtime and wished he'd taken a few more, certainly. And that looks excellent, and I shall definitely try and get up a review of that onto the channel, as and when time allows. What else did I pick up? Oh yes, a terrain crate for my Dead Zone scenery, which was the industrial one with the pipes in it and all the flotsam and jetsam of an industrial scene. So that was really nice. And also, because they were selling them off for £25, yes, 25 English pounds, another copy of first edition Dead Zone. Mainly for the scenery, because you probably get enough, the same amount of scenery in the first edition box set as you do now in one of the terrain crate. In fact, there's my industrial one. Terrain crate boxes. It's certainly easily worth the £25 just for that scenery. But of course, I also get Plague and Enforcers. So I've now got two lots of the Plague and Enforcers from first edition box sets, having picked up another first edition box set a couple of weeks ago at the Square Bashing Day. And I've got the Enforcer faction from the second edition box set, so I've got a considerable amount of Enforcers now to make use of, which is really nice. I need to work out just how much I've got there. Just painting this, what I take to be a metal fence here. Again, just absolutely blasting some black paint on here. I'll rust this up with my rust recipe of sort of a mid-brown, sorry, actually a dark brown and mid-brown, and then some orange on top. That's generally what I'll paint on for rust. There are various rust specific paints out there, but I found that recipe, which is the old one that Games Workshop used to use years ago before their specialist paints came out. That's absolutely adequate for my purposes. Really, just there's not an awful lot of skill or technique going into this paint here. So yes, so I picked up that, which probably gives me more than enough scenery now for a very decent game of Dead Zone with some height on the board. I'd like to pick up the military compound set, I think it's called. Just because you get the armoured sort of plates that go on the front, and it just gives the whole thing a different look. And then maybe one of the industrial zones, because you get the grill, this sort of stuff. See if can you see that there? Yeah, this sort of stuff as both walkways and fencing. At some point I will. I'm not in particular rush now for that, it has to be said. What I'm painting now is actually the broken glass. I'm painting it black because what I'll do is paint some dark blue and light blue on it then to give the idea that it is actually glass and not painted plastic. But this is really just fast, dirty work. It's not an awful lot of time being lavished on it whatsoever. Because this game is going to be one of those games where I'll play once in a blue moon, certainly as Mars Attacks. I'm not saying the scenery won't be used in any other context, of course. It doesn't just have to be used for Mars Attacks. In fact, it could be used for some rather excellent World War II city fight skirmish a la Stalingrad, or could be used in Warpath, I suppose, as a damaged city scene. Could even be used in The Walking Dead, sort of later season Walking Dead, as things have really gone down south in that programme. So just pick those bits of shattered window out there, and there's one or two bits of street furniture as well, like this hanging basket type affair that will get a quick coat of black also. So no real thought or attention paid, just whacking it on. The Mars Attacks figures that I've got are now usable in Dead Zone, or there's certainly lists to use them in Dead Zone. They're not really appropriate for tournament play. They're not actually part of the Dead Zone or Warpath universe, but I think it's a real good thing that Mantic have done in creating lists so people who've got the Mars Attack figures can make use of them in more than just the Dead Zone game. I guess there's absolutely nothing to stop people using them in using the Mars Attacks figures in a Warpath firefight scenario. Well, in fact, any other rules, but just seeing as I'm staying Mantic focused at the moment, using the Warpath, I'll have to investigate that. Certainly using the army versus the Martians as opposed to survivors. That might be an interesting alternative use. I've not actually painted some of the more exciting bits yet for Mars Attacks, such as Big Stumpy Robot and Flying Saucer. I'm going to try and get those put together before club night, because that would be great to take those down. I've got pretty much all day tomorrow to myself to get some prep work done for the game and paint up one or two other bits and pieces, of course all before that big match taking place tomorrow night. Do you know what, I'm looking at these, the original intention was to put a black wash over these. I'm not really sure it needs it, to be honest. I've just gone for this quick and dirty look. I'm not sure. Keep it simple is often my motto and mantra when it comes to hobby. So I was talking about this to a guy at the Square Bashing Day, the Peter Pig game day that I went to down at Daventry, where a guy was painting. Peter Pig have just released a set of rules for Western battles, so sort of cowboys versus Indians, that sort of thing, which I've assisted in and play tested in. And he was painting up a faction for that game, cattlemen, I think they were, cowboys basically. And bearing in mind these are 15mm figures produced by Peter Pig, where you'll have 2 or 3 figures to a base. So a base is an element within the game. Excuse me, a movable element. He'd used something like 30 different colours to paint the force, and it had taken him a long time. Now, he wasn't painting these as a competition entry. He wasn't painting them to win any first prize in for best painted faction at the event day that he was going to, which was a Western Battles event day down in Poole, just outside Bournemouth. But he was complaining that it was taking him so long to get these figures done, and these are 15mm figures, don't forget, 30 different colours. I told him it was bonkers. It's his hobby, clearly, and we each get our own entertainment out of it. But he was looking for ways of speeding up the game, and I said, well, you could start by cutting in half the amount of colour that you're using. I mean, he was talking about 7 or 8 different browns, which on a 15mm figure to me is bonkers. Unless you're looking at the figure from directly underneath your nose, once the figure hits the table from 3 or 4 feet away, you really can't tell the difference in one shade of brown. Okay, maybe a very dark brown to a very light brown, but the browns in between, I defy anybody to say that they could tell one medium brown from a leather brown, from a barbarian brown, from whatever brown it is that you use, whether it's from Cote d'Arms, Vallejo, GW, P3 paint line, whatever. I do reiterate, it's absolutely his right to use as many different colours as he wants, and I'm sure the end result was worth it. But for me, these are gaming pieces that I want to play games with and not display as works of art. So I guess route of least resistance for me. So get the smallest palette of colours that you can, and stick with them. Often I go with 2 or 3 contrasting colours, and then 2 or 3 supplementary colours, I guess. So for instance, let's get an example. So in my Mars Attacks box here, on my US, let's get a Mars guy out. There's still, I need to still glue the bubble helmets on these guys, but let's just have a quick look at them. So I'm not sure how well this will show up. There's the US infantry guy, US Marine. So he was sprayed in a desert yellow. I think he looks alright. He's got a bit of brown equipment on the back there, on his boots. He's got a black rifle. I forget what, is it an AR-15 or M60? I don't know. Some sort of assault rifle. He's got some grey knee pads and grey gloves and a bit of flesh. So what's that? Including the base spray colour, which went straight, which was sprayed on, obviously. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colours used in that figure. And I painted those up in absolutely no time at all. Basing was just grey, and then a little bit of red, brownish red, put on to represent brick rubble to go with the scenery, I guess. The whole figure is then washed in, I think it was probably Agrax Earth Shade, may have been Reichland Flash Shade, although I doubt it. I think that's probably Agrax. So the whole figure done in that. And the Martian, which has definitely got more colours on it, was sprayed with crystal blue from Army Painter. So that's the blue. Red backpack 2. Green gloves, face and boots, that's 3 colours. Silver for the ray gun, 4. And then a flesh colour for the exposed cranium brain area. You might just be able to see there's a dot of red on his chest plate there, but that's clearly the same red as that. The blue was washed with the Army Painter, no sorry, the Games Workshop blue wash. The greens and silvers were washed with normal oil, as was the backpack. And the skull washed with Reichland Flash Shade. I haven't done the eyes, that's sorry, oh dear. I haven't done the eyes on these guys. I did deliberate over it, but I've got 20 of them, that'd be 40 little eyes to paint, and frankly, life is too short to paint eyes on figures. That's my humble opinion. Because from here, you can't tell if he's got eyes painted. Maybe if I put him right up close, you can see there that his owner hasn't taken care of him and painted his eyes. But if I move back here, you've no idea. So just the bubble helmets to stick on now. I'll stick those on tomorrow for the scenarios. But yeah, keep it simple is my tip for quick painting, and for beginners who are taking their first steps into the world of hobby painting. Just keep it simple. You will confuse yourself, you will become annoyed that you're not producing figures like those in White Dwarf magazine, or that you see on the various painting sites online. If you try and replicate some of the amazing paint jobs that you see, that's one, those people have probably been painting as long as they've been walking, and two, they probably paint for 25 hours a day or thereabouts, maybe a bit less. I just haven't got the time for that. I haven't got the energy, I haven't got the inclination. I think my figures look okay. They're not world beaters, but they don't. I'm not ashamed of putting figures on the table and saying that I painted that. They're more than adequate for tabletop standard. I have often thought about trying to further my painting skills, but then I do remember that some things in life just are more important than spending hours painting little miniature men. So, you know, I've got a 7-year-old daughter who takes up a lot of free time. In fact, I need to keep an eye on the time because I need to pick her up from school soonish. I've got a wife, I've got a job. Like the vast majority of you out there, we've got other things to do than spend painting figures. Now, I do enjoy painting. It's sometimes a chore, but it's not always a chore. Sometimes I really get into the zone and can knock out figures really quickly. Other times it's laborious, and I'll take extended breaks away from the painting table, and I'm sure that's similar to most people. But I paint to play. I don't paint just for the sole enjoyment of painting. I don't like using unpainted figures. I guess that's the crux of it. And also, as long as somebody's put the effort into painting a figure, I really don't mind. I'd rather not play against unpainted figures. It's not everybody's bag. I appreciate painting figures isn't up everybody's street, but as long as somebody's taking the effort of getting a brush out and getting some colour onto a figure, that's good enough for me. It doesn't matter if it looks like your 7-year-old daughter's done it, or it is indeed a Golden Demon winning entry. This is a broad church, this hobby that we're in, and we should never inflict our own values and thoughts and morals and mores onto anybody else. This is our free time that we give up to do this stuff, and what we don't need is people out there demanding or dictating how we spend that hobby time. So there's a game called War Machine and Hordes that I played for a couple of years or so, and there's definitely an emphasis, well, not an emphasis, but there's an acceptance that people will play with unpainted figures. In fact, I remember playing against a guy whose figures were not only unpainted but blue tacked together. He'd purchased a certain figure for his army that the store owner was a member of the club, and the store owner brought that figure down. He ripped it out of its blister and with some blue tack stuck the figure together and promptly used the figure in the game, which was a new experience on me. I'd never seen that before. I come from a club where it was almost expected that you would paint your figures before playing with them. Again, we're not Nazis about it. Not you wouldn't be shown the door, but kind of an expectation that you made that bit of an effort. to get a figure painted. So it is each to their own. As I've gone through life and got older, I'm late 40s now, I find I'm looking for quicker and quicker ways of getting figures painted, and I care less and less about little errors and details and mistakes I might have made within the painting. As long as it looks good on the table, I really don't care. Years ago, I remember when I was first heavily into this hobby in my early 20s, I dabbled with it as a kid, but heavily into it through the Stoke Club, and we were playing a lot of, well, exclusively historical games, and almost exclusively American Civil War, which is still a real passion of mine as a historical period. I was painting using the old Kevin Dallimore school of painting, which is the black undercoat and then 3 highlights on top of that, using paints from the Foundry that are still going and still very good paints, and in fact probably some of the best paints out there, if truth be known. The pigment is so strong in them, and they sell them in the sort of base colour, mid highlight and then top highlight. Sell them in these triages of 3 colours, which makes using that Dallimore method very easy. It's named after Kevin Dallimore. I think he was a member of the South London Warlords who run Salute. In fact, I think he's still involved in that club and had the running of the show. But I used to paint almost exclusively for War Games Foundry back in the days, hiking his talents around numerous companies now, I think, but he was almost certainly exclusively Foundry back in the day, and certainly for a long time during the mid to late 90s into the 2000s. If you didn't use the Dallimore method of painting, you were almost a pariah on the scene. But that's another story for another video. So I'll end that there. That's about half an hour. That's long enough to bore you with. So that's where we're at. I'm really not sure I'm going to bother putting a wash over these. I will over the doors. You've just seen me add a bit of colour to proceedings by doing some coloured doors there. I don't know how accurate that is. I've got a little bit of dry brushing to do on the metal bits, which I'll do. I may just test out a bit of a wash. That's it for now. We'll be doing a battle report, so you'll see these bits and pieces and maybe 1 or 2 other bits and pieces on the table during that, as I play Mars Attacks for the first time down at Stoke Club. Okay, if you like this video, like, share, comment, subscribe. Hopefully there's more to come with some event reports, back reps, product reviews, unboxings, all that sort of stuff. I do intend to do a bit of a video down at the Stoke Club, just showing you around, showing you what we do down there as well. But thanks for watching. Look after each other. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Nevada sun like a giant hubcap. Oh.
I am the Martian ambassador. We come in peace. We come in peace. We come in peace. We come in peace.
They came in peace.